Lila toddled into the living room, her tiny arms wrapped tightly around the family's golden retriever puppy, Benny. Her face pressed into his soft fur, and she hugged him like she never wanted to let go. Her mom, Sarah, froze. She'd always worried about the puppy being too energetic, too unpredictable around her little girl. One wrong move could send her child tumbling, or worse. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so you never miss any of our upcoming videos and stay connected with us. But then, something impossible happened. The moment Benny felt Lila's embrace, he froze, lifted his head, and stared at her with eyes full of understanding. Sarah blinked, unsure if she was imagining it. What happened in the next few minutes would make her question everything she thought she knew about toddlers, puppies, and the magic that can happen when they meet. Before we continue, remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss another touching story like this. And comment below where you're watching from and what time it is there. 4 months, Lila and Benny had been growing up side by side. Benny was just 8 weeks old when Sarah brought him home, full of energy, curiosity, and mischief. Lila, barely 2, had immediately taken to him. She giggled at his floppy ears, squealed at his tiny paws, and followed him wherever he went. Sarah had one rule: never leave the toddler and puppy alone together. Not because they weren't sweet, they were, but because toddlers and puppies move fast, unpredictably, and Sarah had read too many stories of tiny accidents that escalated in seconds. Still, the bond between them grew stronger every day. Benny was a curious little puppy. He sniffed everything, chewed everything, and ran around the house with more energy than Sarah could ever match. Yet somehow, when Lila was near, he transformed. He became gentle, almost careful. He wagged his tail softly instead of wildly, and his little paws never tripped her or knocked her over. That afternoon, Sarah was tidying up the kitchen while Benny played near the couch. Lila had wandered in quietly, drawn by Benny's soft whines and wagging tail. The moment she spotted him, she ran and flung herself around him, wrapping her small arms as tightly as she could. Benny's ears perked up, his little body stiffening for a heartbeat. Sarah paused mid-step. Her heart raced. Should I intervene? Is this safe? Every instinct screamed to step in, to pull her daughter back. But then she saw something that stopped her in her tracks. Benny's eyes softened, and he rested his head gently against Lila's shoulder. There was no struggle, no squirming, no panic. Just a calm, shared understanding between the two of them. Slowly, Sarah inched closer, watching the moment unfold. The toddler giggled softly, nuzzling Benny's fur. Benny responded with a low, comforting whine, pressing closer as if to say, "I've got you, little one." The room was silent except for the soft rustle of Lila's giggles and Benny's contented breathing. Minutes passed, each one feeling impossibly long. Sarah's initial fear began to shift into awe. She could see the way Benny's tiny paws adjusted, curling around Lila's legs, making sure she felt supported. And Lila, completely unaware of the worry around her, relaxed even more, her face glowing with joy. Then, it happened. Benny gently lifted his head, looked straight at Lila, and let out a soft, playful bark. The sound wasn't alarming, it was as if he was laughing with her. Lila's eyes widened. She squealed with delight and hugged him even tighter. Benny responded by wagging his tail, his little body pressing against her as though sharing a heartbeat. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. The fear that had gripped her just moments ago melted into something she hadn't expected: wonder. Her daughter and the puppy weren't just safe, they were communicating in a language only they understood. It was astonishing, magical, and entirely real. She noticed the tiny details, the way Lila's fingers threaded through Benny's fur, the gentle rise and fall of his little chest as he settled beside her, and the soft, rhythmic wag of his tail. Every movement, every sound, felt like part of a delicate dance, perfectly synchronized. The minutes stretched on, each heartbeat filled with connection. Lila's small hands ran through Benny's fur, and Benny adjusted his body to mirror hers. Every touch, every tiny movement seemed synchronized. Sarah couldn't move, afraid to break the spell. It wasn't just a toddler hugging a puppy, it was a bond forming before her very eyes, strong and undeniable. Then, Lila leaned back slightly, looking into Benny's eyes. "You're my best friend," she whispered. Benny responded with a soft lick to her cheek. Sarah gasped silently. The simple gesture, so small and tender, conveyed something bigger than words ever could: trust, love, and pure joy. Benny's little tail wagged even faster. He rolled slightly onto his back, presenting his belly for a playful rub. Lila giggled uncontrollably, hugging him even tighter as her tiny arms wrapped around his soft body. It was a scene of pure, unfiltered happiness. Sarah's husband, Mark, returned from running errands, groceries in hand. He paused at the doorway, frozen by the sight. Lila and Benny sat together like two tiny souls perfectly in sync, laughter and soft puppy sounds filling the room. Mark dropped the bag, apples rolling across the floor, too stunned to react. What happened?" he whispered, almost afraid to break the moment. Sarah shook her head, smiling through tears. "Nothing, and everything," she said. "Just watch." The room remained silent except for the gentle harmony between child and puppy. Lila giggled, hugging Benny again, and this time, Benny rolled over playfully, nudging her tiny hands with his nose. She shrieked with delight, and he barked softly in response, as though laughing along with her. Mark inched closer, unable to look away. The synchronization between the two was remarkable. Every movement mirrored the other. A paw nudged a leg, a hand ran through fur, a head tilted just so. It was almost impossible to tell where Lila ended and Benny began. Then, as if on cue, Benny sat back on his haunches and let out a joyful bark. Lila laughed louder than ever, her tiny body shaking with happiness. The laughter echoed around the room, and for a moment, Sarah and Mark realized something extraordinary. The fear, the worry, the what-ifs had vanished. All that remained was pure, unfiltered joy. Sarah knelt beside them, softly touching Lila's hair. "See, I told you he's gentle," she whispered, though now her words seemed redundant. The scene was proof enough. The love between a toddler and a puppy could overcome any worry, any doubt. Mark crouched down, brushing his hand against Benny's fur. I think they understand each other," he said, voice breaking with awe. Benny responded with a gentle nuzzle to Mark's hand, and Lila giggled again, hugging him one last time before letting him sit beside her. From that day forward, Lila and Benny were inseparable. Every morning, Benny waited by her crib until she woke. Every afternoon, they played, cuddled, and explored together. Whenever Lila stumbled, Benny was there to steady her. And whenever Benny needed comfort, Lila's little arms were ready. Sarah and Mark realized something they hadn't anticipated. The moments they'd feared might be dangerous became the most magical of their lives. In the span of just a few minutes, a hug had transformed fear into wonder, concern into awe, and ordinary living into a story worth remembering. It wasn't just a toddler hugging a puppy. It was a lesson in trust, empathy, and the extraordinary bonds that form when hearts open fully, without fear. Sometimes, Sarah would watch from the kitchen, glancing at the living room, and see Benny curled around Lila as she napped. Or Mark would find them in the backyard, sitting quietly together, as though they had a private world only they could understand. Every moment felt larger than life. Every tiny gesture of trust, every shared laugh, every soft nuzzle reminded them that love could take the most unexpected forms. Even when the family had visitors, Lila and Benny remained a unit. Friends and relatives marveled at how seamlessly they interacted, how Benny seemed to anticipate every giggle and movement of the toddler. Sarah and Mark couldn't explain it, and they didn't try. Some things, they realized, were meant to be felt, not analyzed. Now, every evening, Lila hugs Benny tight before bed. And every evening, Sarah and Mark watch quietly, marveling at the impossible, A tiny child and a tiny puppy, beating together as one, sharing moments that feel larger than life. Did you enjoy this story? If you were in Sarah and Mark's shoes, would you let the toddler and puppy share this kind of bond? Yes or no? Tell us in the comments below. If you liked this story, subscribe to the channel and leave a like so you won't miss more heartwarming moments like this. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.